All right, guys, 7.3 is power of a power is what I have titled it, even though it might be a little bit different if you look on it on MathXL. But this is what I wanted to call it. So again, if you want the notes guide for this, which is basically what you're looking at right now on the screen, remember that should be on Canvas. You can go grab that, and that way you don't have to write every single thing down, and things can go quicker. All right, let's jump right into it. So what we're going to look at today is when raising a power to a power, we are going to multiply the exponents. Okay, so you can see, other than that, I just got 6 examples here that I want to go over. This is very similar to 7.2 with the amount of time, the amount of work, what it's going to look like to do this. So I'm going to show you what this means and show you why it works that way real quick for the first problem. And after that, we're just going to use that rule and just bust through the rest of them. So here we go. 2 to the third to the second. So with what I just wrote down, the sentence up above, when raising a power to a power, you're going to multiply the exponents. Okay, so I like to think of this when I do this as kind of like the distributive property almost is what it looks like. I'm going to take the exponent on the outside and multiply it by the exponent on the inside. So this would give me 2 to the 6th power. Okay, so again, like I said, like last time too, I said, okay, we can just memorize the rule and great, but I want to show you why it works the way it works. Okay, so this one takes just a touch more than the one from last time, from 7.2. So if we look at 2 to the third to the second power, so in other words, since this whole thing is to the second power, really we could write this as 2 to the third times 2 to the third, right? 2 to the third to the second power, that means I have 2 of those things. And then from there, if I just keep expanding it out, what does 2 to the third power mean? It means 2 times 2 times 2. What's 2 to the third power on the other one? 2 times 2 times 2. What do I have? I have 6 2's, and look at my answer is 2 to the 6th power. So again, just like the last one, the way to show you why and how this works is just by taking your number or taking your expression and just expanding it all the way out. Okay, but again, instead of doing all of this stuff and expanding it all the way out, okay, and proving it to ourselves every single time, instead of doing that, if we can just remember that instead, all we got to do is multiply the exponents. These can go a lot quicker. Okay, so that's why it works the way it works. Let's go ahead and bust out the rest of these problems now. Okay, so another thing to remember too is this is going to happen more and more in 7.3, 7.4, the next thing we do, where we're going to talk about these rules for the exponents, but then we're also going to throw in, like this one, there's negative exponents. Okay, so for this one, just because it's a negative exponent doesn't mean anything different. I'm going to multiply the exponents together. This is x to the negative 12th. It should say in the directions to simplify your answers or make sure you write your answers with only positive exponents. So if you were to do this on MathXL and you typed in x to the negative 12th and checked it, I don't know if it would necessarily tell you that you were wrong, but it might tell you that you're not finished or it needs to be simplified. So we got to start remembering from now on is read the directions, of course, always, but then remember to change negative exponents to positive exponents. So that's back to like 7.1, that first part that we did last week. Excuse me. So if I take x to the negative 12th and I want to change that to so that it has a positive exponent, remember I just take the reciprocal of it, and that will make it a positive exponent. All right, so x to the negative 12th would just equal 1 over x to the 12th. All right, next one, and kind of a couple of things in here. So obviously this is a little bit different than the first two where I have 3 things inside those parentheses, one of them being a fraction, but again, that doesn't matter. Okay, we're still going to do everything the same way. So here's where this is, I don't want to say different, but where we have a little more to do. I'm still going to do the same thing with the same rule. I want to multiply the exponents together, and I'm going to kind of use like the distributive property type rule. I'm going to take the exponent on the outside and multiply it by each exponent on the inside. Here's where people make a mistake. This is not the only 2 things to do. That 4 in the front also has an exponent on it. Okay, and we saw this, I know this came up in one of the assignments, I think it was even the last one, where if we have a number or a variable that's just on its own and there's no exponent written, it is understood that that exponent there is a 1. So that means I have to multiply that one by 2 as well. So however many variables and numbers you have on the inside of those parentheses, everything always has an exponent on it, whether you see one or not. Okay, if there's not one written there, we know it's a 1. So I'm just going to take each of these exponents and multiply them by 2. So that'll give me 4 to the 2nd power, x to the 6th power, 6th power, and then y, 1/2 times 2 is 1. Okay, and again, remember you can use your calculator for all of this stuff. So if you have fractions for your exponents that you got to multiply together, then go ahead and use your calculator. Multiply them together in your calculator and save some time. Now, I'm going to simplify this all the way, which means, and I'm going to go underneath here, 4 to the second power is 16, x to the sixth, and y. I am not going to write the y to the first anymore. I'm just going to write a y. Okay? We don't need to write the 1 there. It's one of those things, if we don't need it, then don't write it. Okay? Same thing like on the 16. I'm not going to write 16 to the first power, so I'm not going to put the 1 on the y either. We know that's what it should be. All right. Halfway home. Let's keep on moving on. So, next one here. Again, just another example where things are a little bit different than the previous ones, where we got to make sure we're careful. So, again, same rule, same thing. Oops. Again, right there, exponent on the outside times the exponent on the inside. I am not going to multiply anything with this exponent right here because this b to the first power, remember that's a 1 there, that is not on the inside of those parentheses, so I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to multiply that one by -3. So in other words, that b to the first power on the outside, that's just kind of hanging out. That's just along for the ride right now. And then -5 times -3 would be 15. And then now we're back to 7.2. I am multiplying two things together. What do I do with the exponents there? I would add those together to get b to the 16th power. All right, so going to happen a little bit day 2. Same thing tomorrow, or with 7.4, where we're going to learn the new ones and probably going to throw in, the old ones here and there just to keep you on your toes. All right, 2 more to go. So I have e to the 4th power to the 1/3 power. So the only difference here is I changed this number, this exponent on the outside, to be a fraction, just to kind of make you think, throw you off, whatever you want to call it, but it shouldn't, because there's nothing new, nothing different. We're just going to multiply. So I'm going to take e, and just to remind you, if I'm going to take a fraction and multiply it by a fraction, remember all we got to do is, what is happening? All we got to do is make both things look like a fraction and then multiply straight across. So this would be e to the 4/3 power, and I'm going to leave it like that since it's a variable. If that was a number, I could try to simplify that a little bit, by doing the third root of whatever that number is and then raising it to the 4th power like we did in 7.2, but it's not a number, it's a variable, so I'm just going to leave it alone. Okay, last one, last example, and again, it's nothing new again. I just wanted to kind of make the exponent a little bit more difficult to work with. So multiply the exponent on the outside by the exponents on the inside, which again, on the 27 as well, that's a 1, so I got to multiply that one by -1/3. Okay, so that'll give me 27 to the -1/3, and r, so 18 times -1/3 is -6. Okay, all right, so the next thing that I want to do, there's actually 2 things left to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I see both of my exponents are negative. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. The first thing I see is that both of my exponents are negative, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the reciprocal of both of these things so that the exponents become positive. So that means I'm going to rewrite this as 1 over 27 to the 1/3 and r to the 6th. Because remember, whenever we take the reciprocal, the exponents change sign. So now they're both positive. So the r to the 6th, we're good to go there. Nothing else we can do. Now 27 to the 1/3, that could possibly be simplified. So remember, from 7.2, what we talked about last week is 27 to the 1/3 power. That's the same thing as asking for what is the third root of 27. Okay, what is the third root of 27? So that, again, you could take your calculator, like I showed you in class, and figure out, what is the third root of 27? What number times itself 3 times is 27? And that actually comes out to be 3. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So 1 over 3 r to the 6th power. All right, so couple big things other than just, knowing that if you have an exponent to an exponent, you got to multiply, is make sure your answers are written with positive exponents. And if you get a number answer, remember you may need to try to simplify that a little bit further, multiplying it out or doing whatever the root would happen to be, that kind of stuff. Okay, so if you get an answer wrong, or I shouldn't say wrong, if your answer isn't correct right away, don't necessarily think or assume that it's incorrect. Look at what it says on the screen, because you might just need to simplify it a little bit further. Okay, so don't just quickly, dismiss it and say, oh, I got to start over or redo this or something like that and get frustrated. Look at it, see what it says. Maybe you just need to simplify something a little bit more. Okay, And then, as always, make sure you ask questions in class. Email me if you're at home, whatever you need to do. All right. Good luck.